Alright, well, I apologize for that terrible title. Typically, I usually make the titles on PS4. Obviously, this game's not on PS4. So, with that being said, let me jump right into this. This game kind of surprised me. I mean, when I saw that it was Pokken, basically made by the Tekken team, it's a Pokemon game. I wasn't really sure what to expect. I noticed that it was an arena fighter, and I was like, okay, so I really hope it's not going to play like Naruto, because that would be really disappointing. But thankfully it doesn't. Actually, it does have Tekken-like combos, which I will show later in the video. There's actually a lot of modes in this game, which I was surprised about. Like, it's definitely a full fighter. There's tons of ways you can practice a character, you can learn a character. The story, I put almost like 3 hours into it. I'm still not even done with it. I was actually really surprised. It's fully voice acted, cinematics. Overall, this is a really good fighting game. There are some things I don't like. The core mechanic of the game is set on these things called phases. There's a dual phase and a field phase. The dual phase is more like what you would expect in a fighter. You have a jump button, a light attack button, a heavy attack button, and like a projectile button. You also have a block, which will turn into an air dash, so you can't air block, unfortunately. And you also have the support button, which will let you use one of the support Pokemon that you unlock. I have pretty much almost all of them from playing the story so far. I'm missing just two. The character selection, like the character choices, I think are okay. There are some Pokemon I don't understand why they put in, and why they left certain Pokemon out. I'm not really too familiar with most of the newer generation Pokemon, but some of the ones that I recognize are in here, so I guess that's good. The field phase, I don't want to go off track too much, but the field phase is more of I guess like a footsies phase. You try and make your way in, and when you hit a certain like attack, like I guess a critical hit, you would then switch into the dual phase. It works pretty well. I think the game is a little too reliant on the rock, paper, scissors mechanics. For instance, like if someone was to do a projectile, your air attack would probably be better to close the distance, things of that nature. But overall, it's pretty good. You also see rock, paper, scissors come into play where there is like this counter move where you hold two buttons down and you basically charge an attack. It gives you pretty much hyper armor, and it lets you punch through their attacks. You could get grabbed out of it though, so grabs will beat that out, but it will beat out attacks. You could also punch out of a grab, so that's pretty much where the rock paper scissors comes into play as far as that goes. Overall, I feel the combat's pretty engaging. I was actually pretty surprised overall. It's not as in-depth as Tekken, but it's also not as simple as other arena fighters. It's kind of like this happy medium. I say it's enough to be fun, but it seems like what is actually useful in combat is not to remember the combos and kind of more or less focus on the heavy attacks and just kind of be in and out real quick. One thing I don't like about that is if you do try and do a combo, you notice that a lot of combos drop pretty easily. I guess because Tekken is known for very long combos that kind of keep people bouncing off the floor or in the air, and there's juggles. This game has a lot of resets. People become like invulnerable at certain points. They would flash. They can't really get infinite. Also, the phases helps prevent that. Also, when you're in the field phase, you'll notice that there are pickups that help you bring up your synergy gauge, which allows you to do your special. You could also have your assist character, that woman, cheer in different ways. I usually set her to fill up the synergy gauge because I noticed that a lot of Mewtwo's attacks lower it. Now that's another thing I want to talk about is, again, character roster. It's actually kind of interesting that each character actually does fight differently. I mean, as far as their basic concepts, you can pretty much pick up any character and know what button's going to do what. But how you have to utilize the character in certain situations is way different than someone else. The character I'm fighting now in this online battle is more of a zoning character. Even though the moves are practically the same, like the Y would be the rush down move and etc., she will have more range and her move sets are a little different than what mine would be. So that's really interesting. I was actually surprised that there is that much depth. I didn't really get to experience all the characters and how much they differ. I only really played Lucario and Mewtwo, and everything else that I've experienced has been mainly fighting people online. The hits are really good in this game. The animations are really good in this game. This has to probably be one of the better looking Wii U games I've seen so far. I mean, minus Xenoblade, but for a fighter, this has to look pretty good in my opinion. I mean, I think it looks better than Street Fighter V. I mean, maybe because there's not as much depth. I mean, there's depth in it, but not as much. Combos are, I don't know, about the same. But the way the hits impact in this game is phenomenal. I think that's probably one of the better points of this game, is just how beefy those hits feel, man. It's really good. I'm getting up to a super here in a second, and I'll let you hear that without my commentary so you can kind of get an idea. But that's another thing too, the supers. Typically with fighting games, I feel, especially with something like this where supers are pretty often, sometimes the super gets kind of bored or played out. Like, you kind of get used to seeing it and you're just like, oh, just get it over with. With this game though, I always feel like more engaged when I get one of those off. Like, it's definitely a very cool movement to get that to go off, and it just really turns the tide of battle, and it's really cool. The damage, as far as the characters do, depending on which one you use, does more or less. And here comes that super, so. Yeah, just let the rest of the round play out on that one. But as you can see, the impacts are really solid. I think that helps make this more interesting and more fun game. I really think that this would probably be a better game to play with friends, because online I've been having very mixed opinions with. That fight was pretty okay, but overall I feel that people are kind of spammy on this game. I'm going to kind of blame that on the limited options on what you could do as far as fighting, but overall it's pretty okay. I do like the leveling mechanic. I don't know where that really plays into in the game. I don't know if that's something that only works in single player or there's like an online mode. I haven't really, because I'm playing with a low level Mewtwo and he seems to be doing just as well as the level 50 Lucario I have, so I'm not really sure where that comes into play. Here is a few examples of some combos. I decided to play with Blaziken, someone I never really used before but I was interested in. You could definitely see how they're very Tekken-like, and that's really cool and very interesting. I love Tekken, so I was kind of able to pick this up pretty quickly. Overall, with the combos in play, even though they don't really seem to have much use online, if you love Pokemon, you're going to love this game. If you like Tekken, you're probably going to be okay with this game. I mean, I love Tekken, and I'm kind of disappointed that it's a little limited in what you can do as far as what's useful to do. But I still enjoy it nonetheless. I really just kind of bought the Wii U just to have fun, and this game is pretty much just fun. Like, it's as simple as that. It's a fun game. One last thing I do want to point out though in this, which will be coming up, is the character customization. I was not expecting any character customization, but surprisingly, there's a lot. You can even customize the person that cheers for you, that assistant character, which is interesting. I mean, they're preset clothes, but hey, it's there. You could select what type of support Pokemon you want, so your type A, B, and C, so you could quickly get to them when you're picking a character. You could pick what type of cheer she has, which will help you plan how you're going to fight in the game, which is really cool. And the customization on your character, you get to pick like hair, clothes. The clothes are pretty much when you pick like a shirt or something, it changes your pants and everything, so that's a little limited, but for the most part you really do get to customize it and make it look really different than what other people have, and I think that's really cool. I was going to give the game a lower review when I first played it and kind of experienced online for the first time. When I switched over to Mewtwo, I really started liking the game a lot more. I think maybe because the character's playstyle fits what I was expecting to play like, rather than how Lucario played. I'm gonna give this game, I don't know, maybe like a 7.7. Yeah, I don't know. It's really hard to rate it because it's really more of a fun factor for me than like an actual in-depth fighter mechanic style game. But it's really fun, and it could be an in-depth fighting mechanic game. So, you know, there's that. I do feel like I wish there was more to do as far as like strategy, you know, like strategizing against certain approaches that people might have. But overall, it's a good game. I guess you could wait on it, but I wouldn't. I'd pick it up. So overall, thanks for watching.
None of the
Fun
battle
game.
trainers are
Check
messing
it out.
around at this point, huh? But I guess the same goes for you.